The Russo brothers' 2016 film Captain America Civil War saw the introduction of several major Marvel Comics characters into the MCU: Spider-Man, Helmut Zemo, and the topic of today's video, Black Panther / T'Challa. The thematic elements of Captain America Civil War and Chadwick Boseman's phenomenal performance makes for the perfect live-action debut of the character. In this video, I will be reviewing the character of Black Panther / T'Challa in Captain America Civil War. Black Panther was created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, though it's one of those characters with a complicated origin in terms of creative credit, as Lee and Kirby have disagreed about which one of them truly created the character. Despite that, I do believe both men were very influential and offered so much to the foundation of the character. Black Panther debuted in Marvel Comics in the pages of Fantastic Four in 1966. The character is one of the first characters of African heritage to be featured in a mainstream American comic. Lee was proactive and proud in bringing African American representation in comic books, but he and the creative team were still hesitant at the time, worried about cultural outrage. Deciding to have T'Challa wear a full face mask on the cover of his debut comic, concealing his skin tone, even after Kirby submitted several initial sketches that had T'Challa wearing cowls that revealed his face. Despite the initial worry, Black Panther did quickly develop into one of the most beloved Marvel Comics characters and remains so to this day. 2016's Captain America Civil War is the character's live-action debut, but back in the 90s, actor Wesley Snipes wanted to bring the character to the big screen with himself in the role. Unfortunately, the project was never able to get off the ground, and Snipes would eventually revitalize Marvel comic book movies with 1998's Blade. He would still show his support to the 2018 solo Black Panther film, just happy that the character would be appreciated by movie audiences. The comic book debut of the character would make Fantastic Four director Tim Story want to introduce Black Panther in his unmade third Fantastic Four film. However, the studio didn't own the rights to the character, and Fox would ultimately reboot the franchise, moving away from Tim Story's original plans. Story's main choice for the role was Djimon Hounsou, who would later voice the character in an animated project. Black Panther has several appearances in animation. I believe the best adaptation is in Avengers: Earth's Mightiest Heroes. That show gets a lot right about the Marvel Universe in general, and definitely does justice to the character as both a king and a hero. Three major overall themes to the movie are the classic superhero themes of responsibility, vengeance, and evolution. These go very well with T'Challa and the journey he goes on as a character. We are introduced to T'Challa when the Accords are being finalized. The main Avengers have already had their discussion and have already chosen their sides. The conflict is placement of authority and surrendering to that authority. Current ruler of Wakanda, King T'Chaka, is finally ready for him and his country to become more involved in the outside world. T'Chaka is seeking diplomacy in the aftermath of tragedy. This decision does come from loss, but it's still an attempt at unity and building a better legacy. I like the quick relationship Natasha and T'Challa establish. He respects her ability to stand against corruption in authority. It shows that T'Challa is not really interested in the Accords. He more believes in the responsibility aspect, but isn't really into outside interference, establishing the difference between him and his father, as T'Chaka is pushing for the Accords and democratic collaboration, the difference between father and son, the king and the prince. T'Chaka tries to teach T'Challa the lesson that it's never too late to change, evolve, walk a different path. Wakanda has spent so long in the shadows, and now T'Chaka is prepared for him and his people to step into the light. This is the final lesson that T'Chaka taught his son as he's assassinated. The death of his father and the immediate ascension to the throne puts a lot of responsibility on T'Challa's shoulders. It's reasonable that T'Challa is angered by his father's murder and immediately plans for revenge against the number one suspect, Bucky. His line about not being his father shows that he already doubts his capability to be the man his father was, a diplomat, a ruler, a king. When T'Challa begins his quest for vengeance, he still works within the systems. He's not overly emotional, but still driven by his emotions. It shows that he's disciplined, waiting for the perfect time to strike. He still is a relevant threat after all, but still restrains himself against Team Cap. He does manage to get into hand-to-hand combat with his father's suspected killer, but never truly gets in a situation where he can actually kill him. Perhaps he's hesitant, but there's no real evidence to support that. His high level of discipline can make the character not feel very antagonistic against Bucky, but I think if they did make him overly vengeful, then it could have made for a faulty foundation for the character. The performance is very focused and determined, still making for a very compelling arc and appropriate cinematic introduction. There is a grander conspiracy at play, and when T'Challa is introduced to this conspiracy, he's willing to hear out all the facts, willing to slow down. Patience is a good virtue of a leader. Vengeance is a costly path. It can be made appealing after suffering loss. We see how several characters deal with loss. The main antagonist, Helmut Zemo, has surrendered himself to the pursuit of vengeance against the Avengers. Without his family, he has no other reason to live. He is consumed by vengeance, committing heinous acts in the name of his family, a dishonorable way to honor them. When Tony discovers that Bucky is his parents' murderer, he turns on his own friend to claim vengeance. After thoughtful contemplation, T'Challa realizes and accepts that killing his father's actual murderer won't ease his pain. He can't give himself to vengeance because he has greater responsibilities. He has to be better. He's a king, like his father before him. T'Challa can now understand the kind of pain that Zemo has experienced, the kind of loss. This makes T'Challa empathetic to Zemo, but it doesn't mean that T'Challa will allow Zemo to escape the consequences of his actions. T'Challa won't even allow Zemo to take his own life. T'Challa's quest for vengeance is over, but his pursuit of justice is just as tenacious. Now that T'Challa has evolved past being a vengeful warrior, he can now properly assume the mantle of king, learning the lessons of compassion, patience, and justice over vengeance. He's seen the many sides of the outside world along his journey. He's seen the chaos and strife it can bring, but he's also seen that it's full of those trying to do right, trying to change for the better. He offers a hand to Captain America and Bucky. He knows it will take time and understanding, but people can change, and he hopes to be part of that change, as his father would have been. T'Challa's character arc is rather simple, but the distribution of screen time to him and his arc is so well utilized by the script and Chadwick Boseman's performance. Each of his scenes just add to the character and finishes in a magnificent conclusion. The future of the character of T'Challa is uncertain. Even after all this time, I still don't know what I want Marvel to do, or if I'll be comfortable with whatever they do. I think that the mantle of Black Panther can definitely live on within the franchise. Black Panther is a character that deserves to be on the screen, to be in cinema. It's a character that many fans can find themselves in or be inspired by. And if Shuri takes up the mantle of Black Panther, cool. If a variant of Killmonger comes in to take up the mantle, okay. I'm still hesitant of whichever kind of approach they take. I'm just hoping it's respectful. T'Challa is a character that is constantly thinking about legacy and the one left behind by Chadwick, with the character will always be remembered with absolute admiration. Chadwick's portrayal is one of a kind. I'm glad we'll always have Chadwick's T'Challa. He will always be a perfect T'Challa and Black Panther, and deserves to be remembered for all the phenomenal work he did on and off screen.